Hello, ECE240, and welcome to our last class. Here we are right before finals week. And what we're going to do on this week is go over chapter 16 and 17. So this week does cover two chapters on school and achievement, and then culture and diversity. What I want to go ahead and do is bring up this PowerPoint here to go over some quick reminders. First, you must complete all your observations to pass this class. If you have one observation that has a 0, you will receive an F in this class. I have contacted those that have missing observations. Please turn them in. The last day to turn in any observation that has a 0 or that has not been completed is on the 14th. Okay, so please turn those in. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and contact me. Your iSearch is due in a couple of days on the 10th. And then your final, which we're going to review towards the in a little bit in this video, your final is due on the 17th. Now, that is final week. Historically, we would have like a day where we would have a final, which would be during the week. So what I'm going to do is give you one extra day. Your final is due on the 17th. Okay. And then if you want extra credit on your final, you can do that by turning it in one day early on the 16th, and I'll give you some extra credit points for that. Okay. So the first three is just me going over when everything is due. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. All right, let's get into chapter 16. When it goes to chapter 16, this is all about schools and achievement. And what I want to stress is the importance of educators having high expectations for their children, for their students. It comes back to relationship. Children learn best from children, from teachers they have a relationship with. So we must take time to build that relationship, get to know our students, get to know their families, get to know their community. Because once we have a firm understanding, then that's when we can best serve that individual student. Three things that I want you to take away from schools and achievement is this idea of high expectations, and I have a video that kind of talks about these high expectations in a little bit that I want to share with you. But we want to talk about what is developmentally appropriate practice. And so what that means is that children learn through, and they learn best through, active, hands-on teaching methods, such as games and dramatic play. And there's that word play again. Going back to last week when we learned that play equals learning, right? So we want to ensure that our children are learning through their senses, going way back early in the semester, but that it's hands-on, that there's a social component of working with others. That is so key. Part of this too is I want you to, there's a great video that I have by the IDEA Act, and that you get to learn about learning disabilities and how our public education system really is a free public education for all, and how that has come a long way in a very short period of time. So there's a great video that I'll highlight right now that I'm going to want you to watch to really have a firm and stronger understanding of how our public education system is supporting children with disabilities and delays. Finishing off this semester, we get into culture and diversity. And one of the things I want to kind of highlight within that is our social economic status. And we've kind of touched this on previous chapters this year, right? So we kind of have a understanding of what SES means because of previous chapters. But the thing that I wanted to bring up here is that dependent upon your social economic status, you have different levels of attainment. And some individuals have more access than others to better education. There are different resources dependent upon your social economic status. And because of your status, there's different levels of power that you have to influence your community's institutions. There's a great video that I want you to watch that comes back to our public education system and how it is financially built. Actually has the power to potentially then mean that a child gets a different education depending upon where they live in the United States or even where they live in Arizona. All coming back to social economic status. We're going to get into that in a little bit. Okay, so let me show you your canvas really quick. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to learn about Head Start and how Head Start got started. And Head Start, which is our federally funded early childhood learning system, was really developed to combat, to beat, to conquer poverty in our nation. And there's so much brain science that we have learned in this class, just like 80/90, that we know that if we put children in high quality early childhood education settings, it's going to support stronger brain connections. It's going to give them the foundation they need to be successful in life, period, going back to 80/90. So I want you to watch that video. This is where I want you to learn about the IDEA Act. This is really great, a great foundation, a great video that gives you kind of the development of how we are including and being inclusive of children with learning disabilities and delays in our education system. Okay, and I'm going to show you this video right now because I want us to end this semester with this video from Rita Pearson, a wonderful educator, and has a great message to share with all of us. Okay, so this is what you have. Your discussion this week talks about preschool education. And what I want to remind you about is that in Arizona, we only give from state-funded resources sources that will support half-a-day kindergarten. We don't actually have full-day kindergarten. You're saying, hold on, Mr. Ortiz, I did go to full-day kindergarten, or my brother or my nephew and niece is going to full-day kindergarten. That's because the school districts are finding their own means to pay for that full-day kindergarten because the state of Arizona does not provide dollars for a full-day kindergarten. So that really puts a lot of tax on our school districts here locally: Crane, Yuma Unified, Gadsden, Somerton, Mohawk Valley, to be able then to come up with their own funds to support a full day kindergarten. And then we don't have a preschool for all initiative here in this state. So my question here, if you want to complete it, is extra credit. You don't have to do it. You've gotten all the points already for your discussions. So we've learned that this semester that how important, how critically important the first 5 years of life are. In the state of Arizona, we don't fund a universal preschool program, allowing children to receive a free, high-quality preschool education. And once again, I remind you that we only pay for a half day of kindergarten. Do you think this should change? Do you think it should change? of what we're doing in preschool. If you believe it should, please let me know why. If you believe it shouldn't, please let me know why. Defend your opinion with facts. Once again, this is extra credit. You do not have to do it. But for this week, your quiz is not extra credit. Your quiz, which is focused just on chapter 17, is due this Sunday. So this is part of your 800 points. So very important that you get that done. Okay? All right. So let's go down here. You have some other great videos and great resources to find programs here in Yuma, support families, to support our learners, our children. Here is a great place, great websites to bookmark and to use in your future careers, and also during your future work here at AWC or when you get your BA, and also your master's. Here we go, your final exam. Your final exam is due on the 17th, a Wednesday. I will not accept any late exams because I'm actually giving you one extra day to turn it in. All right, but if you do turn it in one day before on the 16th, you will receive extra credit. Once again, this is open book. This is open canvas using all the notes and handouts that I provided you during this semester. This is just like your midterm, where you're going to have questions that you have to give a small essay response to, a good, strong paragraph. Once again, one or two sentences is not enough. Okay? Let me know everything you know. Build your opinion and back it up with facts and theories from the book and from your learning this semester. Okay? What you're going to do is download this attachment. And when you download it, you will see, let me bring this up, all the questions here. So you do have 14 questions. And then also again, you do have one question that is extra credit. Okay? And then if you want to get some more extra credit points, you can turn this in one day before. All right? Most of the questions are worth 7 points, but there are a few that are worth 8 points because there's kind of a deeper answer that you have to give. There's about maybe different perspectives that you're going to have to provide in that question. A new evidence base has identified a set of skills that are essential for school achievement, for the preparation and adaptability of our future workforce, and for avoiding a wide range of population health problems. What are those skills, and explain why they are essential for child growth and development? When I take you back, this is a very similar question that you had on your midterm that got us thinking about these skills that came from where I took you and gave you tools that came all the way from Harvard University. Very much explain what those skills are called and why those skills are so important. Okay? But that's kind of your hint. This is the one question that includes a chapter that was on your midterm and also on your final. And then all the rest complete out from chapter 8 to chapter 17. All right? All right, my friends, let's do this really quick. It has been my honor to be your professor this semester. I hope you have truly enjoyed the content of this class, and I firmly believe the items and things that you have learned this semester, you now can use in the future with relationships with other peers, adults, and children. And especially with children, you get to be their champion now. You have enough skills to be able to support 80/90, to support that child ultimately reaching their full potential. And this is what Rita Pearson talks about in her video, and we're going to watch it together right now. Let me make sure I'm sharing my sound here so that you can hear it in this video.
I have spent my entire life either at the schoolhouse, on the way to the schoolhouse, or talking about what happens in the schoolhouse. Both my parents were educators. My maternal grandparents were educators. And for the past 40 years, I've done the same thing. And so needless to say, over those years, I've had a chance to look at education reform from a lot of perspectives. Some of those reforms have been good. Some of them have been not so good. And we know why kids drop out. We know why kids don't learn. It's either poverty, low attendance, negative peer influences. We know why. But one of the things that we never discuss, or we rarely discuss, is the value and importance of human connection. Relationships. James Comer says that no significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. George Washington Carver says all learning is understanding relationships. Everyone in this room has been affected by a teacher or an adult. For years, I have watched people teach. I have looked at the best and I've looked at some of the worst. A colleague said to me one time, they don't pay me to like the kids. They pay me to teach a lesson. The kids should learn it. I should teach it. They should learn it. Case closed. Well, I said to her, you know, kids don't learn from people they don't like. She said, that's just a bunch of hooey. And I said to her, well, your year is going to be long and arduous, dear. Needless to say, it was. Some people think that you can either have it in you to build a relationship or you don't. I think Stephen Covey had the right idea. He said you ought to just throw in a few simple things, like seeking first to understand as opposed to being understood. Simple things like apologizing. You ever thought about that? Tell a kid you're sorry, they're in shock. I taught a lesson once on ratios. I'm not real good with math, but I was working on it. And I got back and looked at that teacher edition. I taught the whole lesson wrong. So I came back to class the next day and I said, look, guys, I need to apologize. I taught the whole lesson wrong. I'm so sorry. They said, that's okay, Miss Pearson. You were so excited. We just let you go. I have had classes that were so low, so academically deficient that I cried. I wondered, how am I going to take this group in 9 months from where they are to where they need to be? And it was difficult. It was awfully hard. How do I raise the self-esteem of a child and his academic achievement at the same time? One year I came up with a bright idea. I told all my students, you were chosen to be in my class because I am the best teacher and you are the best students. They put us all together so we could show everybody else how to do it. One of the students said, really? I said, really? We have to show the other classes how to do it. So when we walk down the hall, people will notice us. So you can't make noise. You just have to strut. And I gave him a saying to say, I am somebody. I was somebody when I came. I'll be a better somebody when I leave. I am powerful and I am strong. I deserve the education that I get here. I have things to do, people to impress, and places to go. And they said, yeah. You say it long enough, it starts to be a part of you. And so I gave a quiz, 20 questions. Student missed 18. I put a +2 on this paper and a big smiley face. He said, Miss Pearson, is this an F? I said, yes. He said, then why'd you put a smiley face? I said, because you on the roll. You got 2 right, you didn't miss them all. I said, and when we review this, won't you do better? He said, yes, ma'am, I can do better. You see, -18 sucks all the life out of you. +2 said, I ain't all bad. For years, I watched my mother take the time at recess to review, go on home visits in the afternoon, buy combs and brushes and peanut butter and crackers to put in her desk drawer for kids that needed to eat, and a washcloth and some soap for the kids who didn't smell so good. See, it's hard to teach kids who stink. And kids can be cruel. And so she kept those things in her desk, and years later, after she retired, I watched some of those same kids come through and say to her, you know, Miss Walker, you made a difference in my life. You made it work for me. You made me feel like I was somebody when I knew at the bottom I wasn't. And I want you to just see what I've become. And when my mama died 2 years ago at 92, there were so many former students at her funeral. It brought tears to my eyes, not because she was gone, but because she left a legacy of relationships that could never disappear. Can we stand to have more relationships? Absolutely. Will you like all your children? Of course not. And you know your toughest kids are never absent. Never. You won't like them all, and the tough ones show up for a reason. It's the connection, it's the relationships. And while you won't like them all, the key is they can never, ever know it. So teachers become great actors and great actresses, and we come to work when we don't feel like it, and we listen to policy that doesn't make sense, and we teach anyway. We teach anyway because that's what we do. Teaching and learning should bring joy. How powerful would our world be if we had kids who were not afraid to take risks, who were not afraid to think, and who had a champion? Every child deserves a champion, an adult who will never give up on them, who understands the power of connection and insists that they become the best that they can possibly be. Is this job tough? You betcha. Oh God, you betcha. But it is not impossible. We can do this. We're educators. We're born to make a difference. Thank you so much.
So I'm glad and thrilled that you got to hear Rita Pearson's message. Unfortunately, she passed away back in June of 2013. When I first saw this TED Talk years ago, it really touched my heart due to the fact that I was able to relate to her around previous students going to her mom's funeral. When my mom passed away 5 days after my oldest was born, it was difficult. It was hard being a new father and losing my best friend, my mom. And I was touched when we were at the burial site, and under a tree, I turned to my right, a little far from the distance, and many of my students that I taught back in San Diego and their families were there. And it was this time of happiness and one of the deepest moments that I had in my life of seeing those kids that I hadn't seen in, for some of them, 4 to 8 years because I had moved to Yuma. But I knew we had an attachment. We had a relationship, and they were there for me. But see, my students also knew stories about my mom and stories of how she raised me and what a wonderful and great person she was. And every year, at the end of the year, when it was my preschool graduation, my mom would show up and I would let my families know that go ahead and talk to her. Those stories were true. See, it's been my honor and privilege not just to go through this book with you and go through this content, but even with our class being virtually online, is share a little bit about who I am, the personal touch, the relationship. That's what you have in your power now. We've learned how children develop, different developmental stages. We've learned about how to take full advantage of the first 5 years and how they impact our teenage to our adult years. Many of things you learned this semester, you will forget in 5 to 10 years from now. But the biggest things I want you to remember is this. Remember why the first 5 years of life are critically important. Number 2, remember that you have a choice to fulfill your happiness. You have a choice to look at the cup half full. No matter how hard it gets, you have that choice. And know that there are many people around your circle that are here for you. Lastly, be a champion. That's your challenge. Be a champion for yourself and be a champion for someone else. Be a champion for a child because our children need you. Regardless if you're being an educator, regardless what your career will be, it is our responsibility to ensure that we support our future generation. I challenge you. I challenge you to be a champion. I wish all of you a wonderful rest of the semester. Once again, it was an honor and privilege to serve you. And if I can be of any support in the future, you know how to get a hold of me. Take care, and I wish you only the best. Bye-bye.